Good morning and welcome to Her Laundry Unfolded. I'm Wendy Babcock, your host, and this morning I'm joined by Miss Emily Lewis. Welcome.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. And I'm not really sure why I picked Mondays. It just dawned on me why I picked a Monday to start.
Yeah.
Usually everyone's like, oh, a day. So hopefully we can start it on an up note, I guess.
Yeah, I have started saying TGIM. Thank goodness it's Monday.
Right,
because
it's
it's
a
all
fresh
about.
start.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love Mondays. I used to dread them, but now I love Mondays.
Yeah, me too. I was the same way. When I worked for somebody else, I dreaded Mondays. It's like, oh, not another day. And then
Yep.
eventually you're like, you know what? I'm looking forward to Monday. It's a new start. What am I going to do this week? What am I going to tackle?
Yep, absolutely.
So let's just jump right in. If you just want to go ahead, introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Sure. So my name is Emily Lewis. I was born and raised in Arizona. But about, 6 years ago now, I moved to a small town in Missouri, which seems weird if you're moving from Arizona to Missouri. But I'm a daddy's girl. He retired out here, which again is weird in another story. But I followed him on out here. We live in a small town. Between my husband and I, we have 5 kiddos.
Okay.
2 of them are in college and 3 are younger.
Okay.
So yeah, very busy with that. And my husband, he's the fire chief here in our town. And part of my story, the last week of March, I put in my 2-week notice from my 21-year career in public safety.
Wow.
Quit my job, and it was one of those decisions that kind of after the fact. I don't know if you're ever ready to make a life decision like that. But it was right before the pandemic kind of hit us here in Missouri. And so I put in the 2-week notice. And during those 2 weeks, I was going, oh my goodness, was this just the best idea or the worst possible timing ever? The world is shutting down. I'm leaving my job security in public safety and going to stay home. So it was, it was interesting.
A little scary. So what led up to you even making that decision? Because that's a huge decision. And again, I think you're right. Even if you think, okay, I'm going to do this, when's the right time? It's very scary because I went through that myself.
Yeah. And I honestly don't know if there's ever a right time. And I was kind of thinking about this too. Like, is there ever a right time to get married? Is there ever a right time to have kids? Is there ever a right time to do anything? So I don't know that there ever is a right time. Looking back now, I'm on the other side of it. Timing is everything. And it was the right time for me. My father is retired police officer. So growing up, it was in my blood. I knew that I wanted to work for the police department. In high school, I was taking criminal justice classes. Right out of high school, I got a job at a police department and I was hooked. Loved it. Worked my way up from the very beginning working in like a records department. Then I went to dispatch, and I was so fortunate to, right out of high school, be able to have coworkers and mentors. And I worked for a really great department that gave me training and education. So I worked my way up all the way through the ranks, and ended up, as a supervisor, as an administrator, training new employees, mentoring new employees, the whole range of things. So I think going from that, and I put myself through school. I mentioned that because it's a big part of my story. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in criminal justice. So this was my life. It was good and bad. It was my life, all consuming, which was fine when I was out of high school, when I was putting myself through college, when I was single. But when I got married, when I had kids, it became my life. It became my definition of, I thought that was success, having a career. I really struggled with home work-life balance. And if you know anything about just anything in public safety, and not only did that, I worked for a police department, I worked for a fire department, and I worked for an ambulance. So I kind of
Oh my
felt like I
gosh.
had to do it all. We
Right.
work shift work, nights, weekends, holidays. And while I was thriving and loving my job, I was not doing a very good job at home. I wasn't doing a very good job at home with my family, with my friends, with any of it. And so while I had these highs in my career, in my professional life, I had
Hmm.
very low lows in my personal life.
Right.
And it cost me my first marriage. And I had 3
Wow.
kids with my first husband. And honestly, I mean, just as any relationship, there were things, but I know my part in that was
Hmm.
not being able to distinguish between work and home and overtime and just things that came up.
Right.
So,
And
oh, go ahead.
I imagine, I'm sorry, I imagine that that is a career that for anybody would really be hard to just shut off when you get home. It's not like, just a basic, office job where you just stay at entry, whatever, you go home, you can kind of shut it off and not think about it. What the career you were in, that's kind of an all compassing type of thing
Mhm.
where you can't just leave it at the door.
Yep, absolutely. And part of it is that's how you're trained. You're trained to
Yeah.
always be thinking about different
Yeah.
things. So in my career, especially with, well, I guess I had a few different aspects, but the dispatch aspect, I was a
Mhm.
911 operator, a police dispatcher, a fire
Wow.
dispatcher. Um, and, so, and I was very, very good at my job. We were trained, all of that, but you couldn't just shut it off. Not
Right.
only because of the different, the calls that we experienced. I had great calls. I got to deliver babies over the phone and
Oh my
going
gosh.
through that process, hearing the baby cry for the very first
Wow.
time was amazing. But then I numerous people, I've listened to their last breath. I had a
Wow.
gentleman, he called 911. He shot himself in the head while he was on the phone with me. So
Oh my
listening to
God.
that, I knew, listening to the sounds that makes you can't even
No.
understand it. Walking
Wow.
through different people with CPR, talking to
Yeah.
them, trying to give them instructions. Um, I had great moments. I had awful moments. And
Right.
unfortunately with that job, you just have to move right on to the next call, the next job.
Right.
So processing that was a struggle for me, learning
Right.
how to be, I was super compassionate, but then how to not take work home with you. But then you did take
Right.
it home with you. And then,
Of
you
course.
take it home with you and you're going home. And especially if it's someone that doesn't work in the field or industry, how do you talk to somebody about that? Or, how was your day?
Right.
Like, it was awful. But then you don't want to burden
Yeah.
your family. You almost have that responsibility to walk in the door and take
Right.
off your work, stress
Right.
and try to just be normal family. And it was very, very, very difficult.
It's got to be
And
like
then,
whiplash, going from that
yeah.
one call to the next, and I'm sure each one has its own level of emotional, and I'm sure that just, even though you can put one aside and go to the next call, eventually it's going to linger with you emotionally, mentally. That just, it leaves its mark on you.
Oh, absolutely. Your shift was completely exhausting. Even if you
Yeah.
had great things that happen, you're just the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows.
Hmm.
That I think it's addicting, which is good
Yeah.
and bad. That's what kept me coming back day after day after day, knowing that I was making a difference, knowing that I was good at my job, and those high,
Right.
trying to reach those highs and especially to pull you out of those lows. But that kind of addiction too is what had me sign up for overtime, or had me,
Right.
work more and work more and work more, and then neglect certain things at home. Um,
Right.
and that, and even with that, like, I did some consulting too, and so I traveled. Well, that
Mm.
doesn't mix well with a family, a home life.
Right.
So, like I said, my career was thriving, and that's what I
Hmm.
was measuring success. that I was promoting through the ranks, that I was getting promotions, that people were appreciative of my work and were requesting me to do different, we did critical incident stress debriefings. So they were requesting me to lead those. And I felt like I need to be there to do that.
Right.
And that's what I measured my success in. And it wasn't until my world came crashing down with my divorce and realizing I had 3 small kiddos at home, that, oh my goodness, how am I going to be there now for them?
Right.
That I packed my car up, everything I could fit into my SUV, and I drove from Arizona to Missouri and showed up at my dad's doorstep and said, hey,
Wow.
I need to change my life. That was my wake up call. We moved into his 800 square foot barn. And so we joked that I was, the kiddos and I lived in a barn in a small town in Missouri. And that's when my kind of transition changed.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So it's not just quitting your job. You're up and moving, a divorce, a new place. You got these kids going through the transition. I've been through divorce myself. It's a lot.
Yeah. So that divorce and the move across country, that was 3.5 years ago. So when I moved and came here, and I was like, I need to support my kiddos. So I did what what was familiar to me. And I went and worked at the police department here in town. So I knew that I could do a service. I knew that I could get hired. I knew that I was good at it. So worked for the police department here in town. Well, that was a whole other thing of just small town, a different agency, different policies, different call types, different call volumes, just things that I had to get used to. Not bad or worse, just different. But then that went back into the whole thing of, well, now I'm working shift work again, and I'm a single mom, and I'm missing my kids' school functions. I'm missing sports functions. And I really had to think, yes, I'm providing for them and I have an income, but I need to start thinking about the rest of our lives. And is this what I want to do? So it was a lot of soul searching here for about 2 years of, is this the right fit for me? Is this the right place for me? Yes, I'm taking care of my kiddos, but I'm missing out on so much. And that was heartbreaking and devastating. And then I knew what the ending was going to be. I knew that, it had already ended in divorce. I didn't want to lose my kids also. So it had taken me 2 years to put kind of a plan in motion of, well, so what am I going to do to change it? Yeah. How am I going to change this? What do I want out of life? And I just started making these small, I started with mindset changes on, I started working with a counselor actually, and had, and started working on myself on, can I still be successful if it's not in this role? And what is my definition of success, and so I changed, instead of professional success, or what I thought it had to mean. I thought it had to mean going to work for somebody and having, a 40+ hour job and having full benefits and having a 401k. That's what I thought it meant. But changing on, well, success can be all of that. And it can be being a great mom and a present mom. And it can mean working from home and having control of your schedule and being involved in the community, all things that I love, but I couldn't because my career, my profession was kind of getting in the way of that.
Well, I want to say though, first, I got to commend you though for your service and what for your prior career, because, most of us, especially me, I am not good in crisis. So knowing that there's people like you out there that are answering that phone and talking people through these incredible tragedies and things that they're going through, that's huge. Like, I hit a deer once, and the dispatcher asked me what my license plate was. I have vanity plates. I had to get out and look. So that's where I'm at with crisis. So I'm not good at it. So, huge praise to you. And that's amazing for all your service. Um, I love how you're talking about the mindset shift, because that's such a big thing, going from what you think success looks like in one aspect, but then knowing you're still missing things like that presence in your kids' lives.
Mhm.
So, walk us through a little bit more of that mindset shift, because I think you're just about there talking about, how you made that shift where, no, I can do this. I can have my life in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like I said, it didn't happen overnight. It was a 2-year journey, and there were highs and
Right.
lows. And one of the things that I really focused on with my counselor, she's a counselor slash coach, but one of the
Okay.
things I had worked on with her is really figuring out what I wanted out of life. And so I started making lists, and I knew that I need to make money, and whatever that means. So it's
Mhm.
not that I needed a career, I needed a way to bring in income. So
Right.
we simplified everything. So I need income. I want to be there for my kids. It was no longer acceptable for me to miss a school program. It was no longer acceptable for me to miss a field trip. I remember one huge kind of turning point is
Mhm.
I had been asked to serve on the hiring community for a new dispatcher. And it
Okay.
was on the interviews, the recruiting was on the same day of my son's field trip. And
Mm.
I had already told him I was going to be there on that field trip, and I
Right.
couldn't get out of work. And
Oh my God.
yeah, it was awful. I cried through all of the interviews, and I'm like,
Oh,
I can't be here. This was that's when I made the decision that this was the best career I've ever had and I could have ever chosen. And it was the
mhm.
best fit for me. But now it's time to move on, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's all about timing. So that's when I started telling myself over and over and over, it is okay to um, have these seasons of life. It is okay to have this career or this job or, this relationship. It's okay to have that. And it's okay to move on from it. Take that,
Yeah.
and I am so grateful and so thankful for everything that it has given me. But now it doesn't fit me anymore. It doesn't fit who I am as a person. It doesn't fit my family. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit anymore, and it's okay. And so I remember. Well, it was in March this year, and since then, during my kind of 2-year journey, I met
Mhm.
my husband,
Oh,
and
cool. Okay.
he's amazing. He's supportive, and so he had kind of worked with me through this process.
Mhm.
But that's kind of important because he was very pro. He saw what this job was doing to me, and he saw that it wasn't the right fit anymore, and so he was encouraging me to step away from it, but I hadn't made that decision myself yet. So
Right.
one day in March, I went to work, and I had been there. My shift was starting at 7 a.m. and by 7:10 I had looked across the room, and my supervisor, I don't even remember what he said at the time, but um, we had just started a conversation, and I looked at him and I said, this doesn't fit me anymore. I'm putting in my 2-week notice. And it was
Wow.
just, yeah. Well, and I hadn't woken up. I didn't wake up. I didn't plan to put my notice in that day. It was just something about that conversation and the way that he and I were talking that I
Mhm.
realized, and I was strong enough and brave enough to make the decision of, this doesn't fit me anymore. There's more out there for me.
Right.
And I hadn't even told my husband. So I went through that day of work. I came home,
Oh my
um,
God.
opened up maybe a bottle of wine, and he came home and he saw my wine bottle, my wine glass, and he's like, "So how was your day today?" Well, let me
Guess
tell
what?
you. Yep. I said, guess what? I quit my job. I put my 2-week notice in, and then panic set
Amazing.
in. It
Yeah.
was, we celebrated, but it was one of those like, well, now what? Now what do we
Right.
do? And we just decided, as we were, still making our list, we decided that there are going to be things in my calendar that are going to be written in pen, and those are my non-negotiables. And that is, different events with the kids. We coach my daughter's soccer team, and so that's a non-negotiable. In the previous 2 years, I was missing her soccer games. I was missing, just different things. And so for that, I wanted to be there for her soccer games, and that was a non-negotiable to me.
Love that.
Being able to drive them to school and pick them up from school, that's a non-negotiable for me. So we wrote those in pen, and then we said, we're going to figure everything else out. And I think I've got an entrepreneurial spirit. So I've always had different things going on. But we decided to really lean into that and say that the best decision for us was for me to stay at home and work from home, and, lean into our community and continue doing, I volunteer for a couple places in town, so continue volunteering, and this would allow me the time for that. But to take my passions and turn that into a business. So right now, my full-time business, I kind of do a few things. I always describe myself as a buffet girl. I love to eat, but I don't just like to eat one thing. I like to go to the buffet and take a little bit over here and a little bit over here and a little bit over here.
I feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my main full-time gig is I get to teach CPR and first aid and work in the community and be on the kind of proactive side of things, where public safety is on the reactive side of things. So now I got to really take things and come to you and say, let's sit in your living room, because I would love to teach you and your family and your kiddos how to do CPR should anything ever happen. Basic first aid. And so now I get to spend time with my dream clients, my dream customers, and make a difference in my community, which has been interesting too, because with COVID and everything, I've had to pivot, and that has opened up an opportunity for me to teach online. So I'm teaching, so I can still get my message out and teach CPR and first aid and connect with people online. And now that has broadened my reach. And, I would much rather spend a few hours with you now talking about the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, signs and symptoms of a stroke. So that way that you're empowered and prepared should anything ever happen. I've spent way too many 911 phone calls on the other end of that line where I say, is he breathing? Well, I don't know. I can walk you through CPR. And they say, what CPR?
Oh my gosh.
And so, now, go ahead.
Yeah, people, and I think especially like with heart attack and stroke symptoms from, my experiences, even with ourselves, we would rather be in denial, like, oh, it's just a neck ache, or it's just this, instead of like really thinking about what these symptoms could mean. Even if it's not that, I think a lot of people sit in denial. So I think the education you're providing is so important, so we don't sit in that denial and someone else has to make that 911 call and you're asking, is she breathing?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we can sit, my husband teaches with me. And so from both of our perspectives, we can really take their fears of, well, I don't want to call 911 and I don't want to make a scene, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do
Probably
that.
Nothing.
Well, wait a second, just the sense of the peace of mind. I would rather have you call 911 and have it turn out to be nothing than you sit at home and wonder and, have these regrets. And so we really like to be able to provide, that reassurance, that confidence. I tell everybody, I will spend as much time as you want me to so that you leave here as comfortable and confident as you can be. And then, and I'm available, before the class, after the class. You can call me, text me. We can go over this stuff. And since we are in a small town, they see me in town, or they'll see me
Right.
at the grocery store. And so we'll sit in the grocery aisle talking about different things. So it gives
Yeah.
me that chance to be able to, still kind of be in the field and making a difference and doing the things that I love, but on my schedule. So I can
Right.
still have, that success in my professional life and success at home. And I have got to tell you, I am since quitting, yes, it was the highs and lows and oh my
Oh, I'm
goodness.
sure. And then throw COVID in the mix and
Right. I had to, something that really surprised me is, I had to grieve. I had to allow myself to grieve my career.
Yes.
I didn't realize how much it would affect me. And so dealing with anxiety and depression, not only with COVID and quarantine and all that, but I was grieving, my career, my worth. I thought that was my worth, and that's what I was tied to. So I really had to sit at home and think about that and allow myself to go through all of the stages, to be angry, to be happy, to be sad. I lost friends. I lost coworkers. I lost that community in my work relationship. I lost all that because I had walked away from my career. And so some of those things are good for me, and some of those, it makes me really sad and it's upsetting. But the flip side of that is now I'm on the other side of that. I'm the happiest I've ever been. My marriage is thriving. My kids are thriving. I'm working out every day. I've lost weight.
Wow.
I'm meal prepping. I'm making dinner for my kids. And if any of you know me, I don't cook. So I'm making dinner. I'm home. I'm present. I'm sleeping. I'm, all of this, and it has been the best decision ever. But it took a lot leading up to it, and it took really understanding the grieving process to get through it too, and the backlash too that it came from that. It's crazy how people see what you're doing and they have an opinion on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's been
and I love that you use the word grieving, because I feel like people think, oh, you quit your job and you moved on, no big deal. But it is, when you're in a career for a long time, that's a huge part of your life that's missing now. It is a grief. I went through that. I know many women who have given up their long-term careers to do something else. It is a grief you go through.
Yeah, and that was really hard for me to come to terms with and to face. So that took a lot of work and a lot of energy. But I just kept, you can't see, I've got a whiteboard over here. So on the whiteboard, I just kept things right in front of me of, why am I doing this? What do I want out of life? And I'm 39. I'll be 40 next year. And not that I think of myself, I don't think I'm old. I don't get caught up in all the numbers or anything like that. But I kind of feel like I'm old enough and brave enough and strong enough now that I can start living and advocating for myself. If I don't stand up for myself, nobody else is going to.
Oh yeah, and you kind of gave yourself permission to redefine what success looks like for you. You evolved your success and gave it a new definition that serves you better now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm doing fun things. So my full-time gig, I'm doing my CPR and my first aid, but I also took this time during COVID. I'm a Zumba instructor. So I am going out, and I'm not the best dancer. I don't have the best moves, but it's something that I love and I enjoy, and why not? And so I saw that it offered me an opportunity, and now I get to teach Zumba for work.
That's fun.
Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely. How can you be in a bad mood when you get to dance? and
No
make
kidding.
money. I started, I volunteer for 2 organizations, and one I was a part of, and one is brand new. So it has given me an opportunity to look at the different ways in my week that I spend my time, and
Hmm.
figure out if this is serving me or if it's not serving me, and then giving me permission to either continue with that activity or
Right.
walk away from it, and know that it's okay that I walk away from it. Um,
Right.
I I get to decide how I spend my time, and what I do, and the different lessons that I'm teaching my kids. There's
Yes.
another gal that we follow, Natalie Hodson, and one of the big things that she says with her kiddos is, we are a family that does hard things. And so we'll say that over and over and over, that we are a family that does hard things. And that hard thing can be, last night my son and I went running 2 miles. That was really hard for him.
Wow.
And so it could be that. It could be getting out of bed in the morning and going to
Mhm.
school on a day that you don't feel like going to school. Like, we are a family
Right.
that does hard things, and this makes us better and stronger, and we get to advocate for ourselves. and
Hmm.
and so this has now given me, um, maybe it's a self platform, but it has given me a platform to, um, just be brave, I guess, and step
Yeah.
and think outside the box, and do things that I want to do, and no longer be, a slave to the definition of what I thought success was, what I
Right.
thought my career had to be, what I thought, or maybe even what I thought people expected of me. Now
Right.
I get to change what that definition is for me, and I'm so much happier.
Yes, you've set your own expectations and successes, and it's an incredible thing to be a role model for your kids that way. That it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to shift. It's okay to evolve. We have to.
Yep.
So
And
I'm
I
sure that's
think that is my biggest lesson is, um, it's okay to change. It's
Mhm.
okay to change your mind. It's okay
Yeah.
that what you once thought you wanted or needed, it's okay that you don't want or need that anymore. And
Right.
yeah, that was so huge for me, because I didn't always think that way. And
I
it
bet.
has been such a, burden lifted off of my shoulders. It has
Right.
just, it's allowing me, to take a deep breath, and, um, take back control. It's a
Right.
wonderful feeling.
That's awesome. So, where are you at? I mean, obviously, with COVID, we talked a little bit about that and how you've evolved even your business. Obviously, you're going to homes before. So, do you do a lot more, obviously, virtual? So, you can probably reach a lot more people.
Yes, yes. And that has been, I love virtual, like, that part didn't scare me. So
Mhm.
doing different Facebook lives or Zooms or whatever, that part didn't scare me. The technology didn't scare me, but
Okay.
it was one of those mindset things of, well, wait a second, we've always done CPR classes in person before,
Right.
so how do we do this online? How do we do this virtually?
Right.
um, so thinking through, and is that okay?
Yeah.
And is that still going to have the same effect? So
Right.
thinking through that process of, well, in a traditional CPR class, and in order to receive a certification, there's certain guidelines in place. You have
Right.
to practice those skills. You have to be able to have a CPR mannequin to practice your compressions on, your rate and your depth, and get
Oh,
feedback and all of that stuff. So, um, we start, if you're local, we can drop the mannequins off, like at your front doorstep or at your business. If you're not local, we mail the mannequins to your doorstep. So
oh,
you
cool.
say, yeah, so you say,
Wow.
hey, I'm interested in taking a class. Awesome. How many people do you want in your class? And you tell me, well, it's my family and I've got 5 people. Awesome. I will stick some
Wow.
mannequins in the mail for you. They will show up at your front doorstep. Let me know when you get them, and we will
Yeah.
go through the class on video, where I've got my mannequin in my home, you've got your mannequins in your home, and we can go through the class and still connect, but you're
Wow.
getting the same good, high quality training that
Mhm.
you are still walking away confident and empowered. But I would almost argue that the classes are better because then we are breaking the mold and taking away that traditional classroom
Mhm.
setting. And now it's in your living room where you're comfortable, where
Yes.
you're, you know, you just, I would argue it's a better learning experience. And you
Oh
get more
yeah.
out of it because then you're more apt to want to be there and want to pay attention. We have more dialogue and asking more questions. And how cool is that, that we have been able to take advantage of, well, I'm just going to mail them to you. We do our thing. You mail them back to me. And
Yeah.
it's even in a prepaid shipping envelope. So all you've got to
That's so
do
cool.
is, yeah, all you've got to do is drop it off, and then it makes it convenient, makes it easy for
Right.
you, but you're getting good, high quality training in life saving
Right.
skills.
And what a fun party idea. I mean, honestly, I know
Yeah.
it's a class, but still, what a great idea to get like friends together, maybe, have some wine afterwards and, chat about it and everyone gets certified and feel more confident.
Absolutely. I actually started out as the door-to-door CPR lady. I've got my first set of mannequins and they're in a bag with wheels. And I would just walk to my neighbor's house and knock on the door and say, hey, can I come in? And so we would do it. We would teach classes, yeah, in the living room or a Sunday brunch or an like a mother-daughter ice cream
Mhm.
social. We'd have a Taco Tuesday CPR class. We'd have, if it's a nice day outside, we're
Yeah.
going outside and we're hanging out in the grass or going to the park. So we are able to get creative and just have fun
Mhm.
instead of a stuffy classroom where everyone's intimidated and no one wants to talk and you don't really want to
Yeah.
be there. And and this is,
Yeah.
it's weird enough practicing on a mannequin, and
Right.
especially
Right.
like if you're going to give breaths on a mannequin, that's weird enough. So let's just
Right.
break that down and have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I absolutely love that. I'm thinking, gosh, I need to have a party now. That sounds like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know CPR, so that's something I've always kind of wanted to learn. And I did used to teach a workout class. So, I mean, to have that would be really cool.
Yep. Absolutely.
That is absolutely amazing. So I have your website up if people want to get in contact with you. Is that look correct?
Yeah.
EmilyKLewis.com.
Yep.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so is there a form on your website or how can they
Yeah,
learn more?
there's a way to connect with me there. You're welcome to find me too on Facebook. I'm just under Emily Lewis on Facebook. I love connecting and getting to know everyone. You can keep up with. Oh, my dance classes. I do those from my living room online too. So if you
Oh,
want
wow.
to dance in your living room, yeah, we do them in person and we do them online. This. I'm not saying that I'm glad that COVID hit, but it has sure allowed me to
Yes.
really change my mindset and my perspective. And this has been so fun
Yeah.
being able to change the way that I teach and the way that we can hold things. So yeah, so we can
Right.
dance online and then we can have a CPR class online.
That's awesome. And I'm going to look that up too, because my sister and we were just talking about maybe starting to work out together. She's got equipment in her basement. So that'd be fun. And she loves Zumba. She's a
Yeah.
huge Zumba fan. And I've only done it a few times. And I loved it. It's a high energy, just pouring sweat, but I feel like I'm flailing a little bit.
Oh gosh, that's how I am. And it's kind of funny to have an instructor. As a student in Zumba, I was always the student that was turned around backwards while everybody else was facing forwards. So it will be, a little bit of a hot mess fun express, but
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, it's fun though. I mean, especially if you're doing that sort of thing, like again, with family or friends
Yeah.
getting together. And, right now it's kind of hard to get together. So even if you both tune into the workout at the same time from your homes and
Yeah.
then, call each other after and be like, how'd you do?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Oh my God, I'm so excited you came on today. I think you're doing incredible things and what a wonderful way to evolve and
Thank
serve
you.
your
Thank you.
community. I mean, you
You
obviously
know,
have a service heart. So
Yeah. Well, and I have to give you a shout out because I heard you speak. I think it was the I Am summit. Was it last year maybe when you spoke?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it was the exact message that I needed at that time. And it was amazing. So that is how I found you and connected with you. And so thank you for that.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's kind of crazy because when you were talking earlier, how of the things that you get to do, all I could think of was Susie Simonson. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
So that's amazing. Just that one phrase, I'm like, oh my God, she must know Susie. That's awesome.
I worked with Susie, absolutely. And so she changed a lot of my wording. And every time I say that, I can't help but smile when I say, I get to, because I see her big old smile and I can't help but smile when I say that. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I love that. I love that. Susie is just, oh my gosh, she's such a positive force. I absolutely love her. So that's great. Now that when I hear people say that, I always wonder kind of, is that a little Susie Simonson I hear? That's fantastic. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I'm excited to stay connected. And they have, the next IM is actually next weekend, and I'm speaking again for the virtual.
Good.
Yeah. So if you want to connect with Emily, please visit emilykLewis.com. Again, you can do the CPR training, some Zumba classes, or, just be wowed by her amazing service and ethic. And
and if anybody is even struggling with trying to make a decision and figuring out, I am by no means an expert, but I am a good ear and I can tell you more of my story in depth. So I am here to encourage you to say I'm on the other end of it and you can be too. So any questions you have, feel free to reach out to me.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of people might reach out as well because, with COVID, everybody that I know is evolving. They're trying to redefine their success and how do I do this? What does it look like? And you're just a prime example. It's just fantastic to see what can actually come about when you make big decisions and move forward. That's awesome. So thank you so much. So your episode will be uploaded to YouTube. And then as well as a podcast, I pulled the audio. I don't edit anything. It's just exactly how it is. So everyone will get to hear your full interview.
Yay.
But thank you.
Yeah,
thanks again for joining. And everyone else, I will see you next Monday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.